I never thought the woman I married would treat me like I was invisible, like I was the help instead of her husband. For 2 years, I watched her hide me from her world, ashamed to call me hers in public while whispering promises in private. What she didn't know was that I wasn't just some maintenance guy she married down for. I was the silent owner of everything she thought belonged to her family. I lived undercover, hoping she'd love me without the money, without the power, just me. But at that gala, when she had security remove me like I was trash while her mother smiled and her friends whispered, something inside me finally broke. Now, she's about to learn that the man she tried to erase was the only thing holding her world together. If you're watching this, hit subscribe and tell me where you're watching from, because this story is just getting started. The kitchen was quiet except for the soft gurgle of the coffee maker. I stood there in my plain work shirt and old boots, the kind that had paint stains nobody would ever ask about. The early light came through the window above the sink, turning everything gold and clean. I liked this time of day, before the house woke up, before I had to remember who I was pretending to be. I poured myself a cup and leaned against the counter, looking at the staff schedule board on the wall. Mrs. Dotty had neat handwriting. Each name had a time slot and a task. Mine wasn't on there. It never was. That was the point. I wore this costume every day now. The old boots, the faded jeans, the shirt that said contractor without saying anything at all. I blended in with the people who kept this place running, the people who made sure the floors shined and the gardens stayed trimmed and the lights always worked. Good people, invisible people. That's what I had become. Invisible. 2 years ago, I married Vivian Hale. Beautiful Vivian with her sharp eyes and her sharper laugh. We met at a charity event where I was helping set up chairs. She thought I worked for the venue. I let her think it. We talked for an hour about everything except money or power or who owned what. She told me about her favorite books. I told her about my late mentor, the man who taught me that wealth without purpose was just noise. She fell in love with Malik the quiet guy. Malik who fixed things, Malik who listened. I fell in love with Vivian the woman, not the heiress, not the name on the building downtown, just her. When we got married, I made a choice. I didn't tell her about the private structure my mentor left me, the one that gave me controlling interest in her family's holdings, the one that made me the real owner of almost everything her mother thought she controlled. I wanted Vivian to love me for me, not for what I had, not for what I could give her. So I stayed simple. I stayed quiet. I became the man who fixed the gate and changed light bulbs and drove the second car. The man nobody looked at twice. I thought it would be enough. I thought love would protect us. I was wrong. The door to the kitchen swung open and Mrs. Dotty walked in, her gray hair pulled back in a bun, her face soft with the kind of kindness that doesn't need words. She smiled when she saw me. "Morning, Malik," she said. Her voice was warm like the coffee. "Morning, Mrs. Dotty." She moved around the kitchen with the ease of someone who had worked here for 30 years. She knew where everything was. She knew everyone's secrets too, I think, but she never said them out loud. "You're up early," she said, pulling flour from the pantry. "Couldn't sleep. Something on your mind?" I shrugged. "Just thinking." She gave me a look, the kind that said she knew I wasn't telling the whole truth, but she didn't push. That's what I liked about Mrs. Dotty. She let people have their space. She started mixing batter for something. Muffins, maybe. Then she said, casual like it didn't matter, "Miss Vivian scheduled a brunch today. Last minute thing. Some of her society friends." I felt something tighten in my chest. Today? Few hours from now. Mrs. Dotty didn't look at me. She kept mixing. She asked me to make sure everything looks perfect. That's your job every day. True enough? She paused, then added quietly, but she seemed tense about it. More than usual. I nodded. I knew what she meant. Vivian had been different lately. Tighter. Like she was wearing armor even when we were alone. She spent hours on her phone, managing things, managing people, managing how things looked, managing me. You want help setting up? I asked. Mrs. Dotty stopped stirring. She turned to me and her eyes were gentle but serious. Malik, honey, you don't have to do that. I don't mind. I know you don't. She set the bowl down and wiped her hands on her apron. But some people don't like being reminded who keeps a home standing. You understand what I'm saying? I understood. She was warning me, protecting me in her quiet way. I'll be careful, I said. She nodded, but I could see the worry in her face. She picked up the bowl again and went back to mixing, the kitchen filled with the smell of vanilla and butter. I finished my coffee and rinsed the cup. Then I heard it, Vivian's voice, coming from upstairs, sharp and low, like she was trying not to be heard but couldn't control the edge in her tone. I moved to the bottom of the back stairs, the ones the staff used. Her voice was clearer now. She was on the phone in the bedroom. Everything has to look perfect, she said. Her voice was ice. He can't embarrass me. I froze. He. She was talking about me. My chest went tight. My hands felt cold. I stood there listening, and I hated myself for listening. But I couldn't move. I don't care what it takes, Vivian continued. Just make sure he stays appropriate. Appropriate. That word hit me like a fist. I turned and walked back to the kitchen. Mrs. Dotty glanced at me and I saw the question in her eyes, but I didn't answer it. I couldn't. I'm going to tidy the foyer, I said. My voice sounded normal, calm, like my heart wasn't breaking. Malik, it's fine, Mrs. Dotty. I grabbed a small cleaning caddy from the supply closet, spray bottle, microfiber cloths, the kind of thing you see maintenance people carry. I carried it through the hallway, past the tall mirrors and the paintings that cost more than most people made in a year. The house was beautiful, cold and beautiful. I made it to the foyer just as Vivian came down the stairs. She wore a silk robe that probably cost $1,000. Her hair was perfect, even though it was barely 8 in the morning. She saw me kneeling near the entry table, wiping up a small water stain someone had left on the marble. Her face changed. It wasn't anger exactly. It was something worse. Disgust. Like she'd found something dirty in a place that was supposed to be clean. Stop, she said. I looked up, at her, my wife, the woman I loved. Do you want people thinking I married the help? She asked. The words were quiet, controlled, but they cut deep. I stood up slowly. I set the cloth down. I was just cleaning up a spill. I don't care. She crossed her arms. When guests arrive, I need you to use the back hallway, not the main entrance, not anywhere they'll see you doing this. She waved her hand at the cleaning caddy like it was something shameful. I looked at her, really looked at her. I wanted to ask when this happened, when I became something she needed to hide, when being her husband stopped being enough. But I didn't ask. I just nodded. Okay, I said softly. Thank you. She said it like I was a stranger, doing her a favor. Then she glanced toward the mirror on the wall, checking her reflection. Not looking at me, just making sure she looked right. I picked up the caddy and walked toward the back hallway. I heard Mrs. Dotty in the kitchen, the sound of dishes being set out. I heard Vivian's heels clicking on the marble as she walked back upstairs. I stopped in the shadow of the hallway and closed my eyes. I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw the caddy across the room and demand she look at me like a husband, like a person. But I didn't, because I was gathering something now. Evidence. Proof. I was watching to see if the woman I married was still in there somewhere, or if she'd been replaced by someone who only cared about how things looked. The doorbell rang. I heard Vivian's voice change immediately. It became bright, musical, the voice she used for people who mattered. Elizabeth, oh my God, you look amazing. I stayed in the shadows and listened to her laugh, big and performative, like she was on stage. Then I heard it, clear as a bell. Oh, don't mind the maintenance guy, Vivian said. He's just handling a few things. The maintenance guy. Not my husband, not Malik, the guy. I stood there in the back hallway, holding a spray bottle, wearing old boots, and I felt something crack inside me, something that couldn't be fixed with apologies or explanations. I took a breath, then another. I made myself calm, and I decided that today was a test, one I never wanted to give, but one I had to see through because love isn't supposed to feel like hiding. The living room was full of light and laughter by the time I carried in the tray of water glasses. Vivian had told me to stay useful but invisible, her exact words. So, I was a ghost in my own home. The women sitting on the white couches were beautiful in the way money makes people beautiful. Perfect hair, perfect clothes, perfect smiles that didn't reach their eyes. They talked about charity galas and vacation homes and people I didn't know. Vivian sat in the center of them like a queen. I set the tray on the side table and started placing glasses on coasters. Nobody looked at me. I might as well have been furniture. Then the door opened and Graham Klein walked in. Graham was 34, tall, blonde, and built like someone who paid for a personal trainer. He worked as some kind of family advisor, though I'd never been clear on what he actually advised. Mostly, he seemed to stand near Vivian and agree with her. He saw me and smiled. The kind of smile that wasn't friendly, just sharp. Malik, he said, walking over with his hand out. I shook it. He gripped too hard, on purpose. Graham. Still keeping busy, I see. His eyes flicked to the water tray. Always something to fix, I said. I bet. He leaned in slightly, lowering his voice so only I could hear. You're a real asset to Vivian. She's lucky to have someone so versatile. The way he said it made my skin crawl. Like I was a tool, a thing she owned. I didn't respond. I just picked up the empty tray and stepped back. Graham moved past me to kiss Vivian on the cheek. She touched his arm and smiled. They looked good together. Same world, same people, same everything. I turned to leave and almost ran into Eleanor Hale. Vivian's mother was 58 and looked 45. She had the kind of beauty that came from expensive doctors and old money confidence. Her eyes were cold and sharp, like she was always judging and always finding you lacking. She looked me up and down, slowly, like I was furniture she was deciding whether to keep or throw away. Malik, she said. Her voice was smooth, sweet even, but there was something underneath it, something mean. Mrs. Hale, you're looking well, she smiled. You're very articulate. I always forget that. The room went quiet for half a second. I felt the words land, felt what she meant underneath them, felt the assumption, the surprise, the racism wrapped up in a compliment. I looked at Vivian. She was watching. I saw her face flicker, just for a moment, like she knew what her mother had just done. But she didn't say anything. She smiled, thin and tight, and then she laughed, a small, polite laugh that agreed with her mother without saying a word. That laugh broke something in me. I nodded once. Excuse me, I said quietly. I walked out of the living room, through the hallway, and into the kitchen. Mrs. Dottie was at the sink. She turned when I came in, and she must have seen something in my face because she didn't ask questions. She just reached for a clean dish towel and handed it to me. Not for dishes, for dignity. I took it. My hands were shaking. You all right, honey? She asked softly. I didn't answer. I couldn't, because I wasn't all right, and I hadn't been for a long time. I'd been living a test I designed, a test to see if Vivian could love me without knowing I had power, without knowing I had money, without knowing I was the man behind the curtain. But the test was showing me something I didn't want to see. She didn't love Malik the man. She was ashamed of him. I looked at Mrs. Dotty and I made a decision. I'm gathering receipts, I said quietly. She frowned. What do you mean? I mean, I'm watching. I'm remembering. And when this is over, I'm going to know exactly who I married. Mrs. Dotty's eyes filled with sadness. She didn't tell me I was wrong. She didn't tell me to give Vivian a chance. She just nodded, because she'd been watching too. The guests left around 2 in the afternoon. Air kisses and promises to do lunch. Hands waving from car windows. Smiles that disappeared the second the engine started. I watched from the kitchen window as the last car pulled away. Then I heard the front door close. Hard. I walked into the foyer. Vivian stood there with her arms crossed, her face tight. The bright smile was gone. Now she just looked tired and annoyed. That went well, I said carefully. She looked at me like I'd said something ridiculous. Did it? I thought so. You don't understand my world, Malik. She said it like an accusation. I'm trying to. Trying isn't enough. She walked. She passed me toward the living room, her heels clicking sharp against the floor. You have to fit. You have to look right. You have to make people comfortable. I followed her. And I don't? She stopped, turned. Her eyes were hard. Do you know what they say about me? She asked. About us? No. They say I married down. They say I picked someone beneath me. The word hung in the air like poison. And you believe them? I asked quietly. I believe I have to manage it. She sat on the couch, pulling her phone from the table. I have responsibilities, Malik. A reputation, a legacy. I can't just pretend those things don't matter. I never asked you to pretend. No, you just asked me to defend you. She looked up at me and her face was cold. Against my mother, against my friends, against everyone I've known my whole life. I asked you to defend your husband. She flinched, just barely, but I saw it. That's not fair, she said. Isn't it? She stood up, her phone in, her hand. It buzzed. She glanced at the screen and her face changed, tightened. She swiped it away fast. Who was that? I asked. No one. Vivian. It's handled. She walked toward the stairs. I have calls to make. We'll talk later. But we wouldn't. I knew that. We'd exist in the same house, sleep in the same bed, and never actually talk about what was happening. Because talking would mean admitting it. And Vivian didn't admit things. She managed them. I stood there in the living room, alone, and I felt the weight of it all pressing down on me. The disguise, the secrets, the test. I walked outside to the garage. My truck was parked in the back, covered in dust. It was part of the costume. The old Malik drove an old truck. That's what people expected. I climbed into the driver's seat and closed the door. The silence was heavy. I pulled out my phone and opened the voice memo app. I'd been recording these for weeks now, little notes to myself. Evidence, truth. I hit record. Day 1, I said quietly. She hid me. I stopped the recording, closed my eyes, and I sat there in the truck, in the shadows of the garage, trying to remember why I ever thought this test was a good idea, because now I was living in the results, and they were breaking my heart. Dinner that night felt like a performance. Vivian sat across from me at the long formal table, dressed like she was going somewhere important even though we were just eating at home. A silk blouse, pearl earrings, makeup that looked fresh even though it was 8 o'clock at night. I wore a plain button-down shirt and jeans. Clean, but simple. The contrast wasn't lost on me. Mrs. Dotty had left us a meal before she went home. Roasted chicken and vegetables. The kind of food that should have felt warm and comforting. But the silence between us made everything cold. Vivian cut her chicken into small, precise pieces. She didn't look at me when she spoke. There's a donor gala in 10 days, she said. I looked up. Okay, it's important. She took a sip of wine. The most important night of my life, actually. The way she said it made my stomach tight, not excited, not happy, just tense, like she was preparing for battle. What makes it so important? I asked. Everyone will be there. The foundation board, major donors, city council members, people who matter. She set her fork down and finally looked at me. I need everything to be perfect. I'm sure it will be. I need you to be perfect. The words landed heavy between us. I put my own fork down. What does that mean? Vivian leaned back in her chair. She looked at me like she was choosing her words carefully, like she was talking to someone who might not understand. I've been thinking about how to handle this, she said, and I've made a plan. For the gala. A plan? Yes? She picked up her phone and scrolled through something. I've arranged for you to wear a specific suit. I'll have it delivered. And I've put together some talking points. Just simple things you can say if people ask you questions. I stared at her. Talking points. It's helpful, Malik. Trust me. These events can be overwhelming if you're not used to them. I've been to events before. Not like this one. She kept scrolling. And I think it would be best if you arrived separately, just to avoid any awkward questions about parking or logistics. Separately, through the side entrance. It's easier. My jaw tightened. I took a slow breath. Vivian, I said quietly, are you asking me to pretend I'm not your husband? I'm asking you to help me manage a complicated situation. By hiding. By being smart. Her voice sharpened. You don't know what it's like. The pressure, the expectations, everyone watching, waiting for me to fail. So, you make me invisible to protect yourself. That's not what I'm doing. Then what are you doing? She looked away. Her fingers drummed on the table. The sound was sharp in the quiet room. I'm asking you to meet me halfway, she said finally. Halfway would mean you defend me when someone disrespects me. Vivian's face went hard. Don't make it worse, Malik. How would defending your husband make it worse? Because you don't understand the stakes. She stood up suddenly. Her chair scraped against the floor. You think this is easy for me? You think I want to worry about what my mother thinks or what Graham says or what people whisper behind my back? Then stop caring what they think. I can't. Her voice cracked, just slightly. This is my world, Malik. This is who I am. And who am I? The question hung there. Vivian opened her mouth, closed it. She looked at me like I'd asked her something impossible. Before she could answer, her phone rang. The sound was loud in the silence. She glanced at the screen. Her whole body tensed. I have to take this, she said. Vivian. She put the phone on speaker without looking. At me. Hello, Mother, she said. Eleanor's voice filled the room, smooth and sharp at the same time. Darling, I've been thinking about the gala. Have you finalized the seating chart? Almost. And have you thought about what we discussed? About image management? Vivian's eyes flicked to me, just for a second. I'm handling it, she said. Good, because you know how important this is. The foundation's reputation depends on you making the right impression. We can't afford any complications. The way Eleanor said complications made it clear she was talking about me. Vivian's face went small, like a child being scolded. I understand, Mother. Do you? Because last time I said I understand. There was a pause. Then Eleanor's voice came back, softer but somehow meaner. I'm only trying to protect you, sweetheart. You've worked so hard to build this. Don't let anyone take it from you. I won't. Good girl. Call me tomorrow. The line went dead. Vivian stood there holding her phone. Her hand was shaking slightly. I wanted to go to her, to hold her, to tell her she didn't have to be small for anyone, but she turned away from me before I could move. I have emails to answer, she said. Her voice was flat. "We'll talk more about the gala tomorrow." She walked out of the dining room without looking back. I sat there alone at the table. The chicken had gone cold. The silence pressed down on me like weight. I thought about the voice memo in my truck, about the words I'd recorded. She hid me. Now I had more to add. She's choosing them over me every single time. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling. Vivian was next to me, but she might as well have been on another planet. She scrolled through her phone, her face lit blue in the darkness. I wanted to reach for her hand, to ask her when we stopped being partners, when we became strangers who shared a house. But I already knew the answer. We'd been strangers for well, now. I just hadn't wanted to admit it. "Vivian," I said quietly, "do you love me?" Her scrolling stopped. The room went completely still. "What kind of question is that?" she asked. "An honest one." She set her phone down on her chest, looked at the ceiling instead of at me. "Of course I love you," she said. "Do you? Why would you even ask that?" "Because you treat me like something you're ashamed of." She turned her head toward me. In the dim light, I could see her face. Tight, defensive. "That's not fair, Malik. Isn't it? You hide me. You give me instructions like I'm an employee. You let your mother insult me and you don't say a word. I'm protecting us. You're protecting yourself." She sat up, pulling the covers with her. "You have no idea what it's like to carry the weight I carry, the expectations, the pressure, everyone watching everything I do. So you sacrifice me to make it easier. I'm trying to keep us together." Her voice broke. Actually broke. "Don't you see that? If I push back too hard, if I make the wrong move, they'll tear us apart. Mother will cut me off. The board will question my judgment. Everything I've built will fall apart. And you think I'm the one who'll make it fall? I think you don't understand how fragile this all is." I sat up too, looked at her in the darkness. "I understand more than you think," I said quietly. She frowned. "What does that mean?" I almost told her then, almost explained everything, the ownership structure, the control I had, the power that was already mine. But something stopped me, because if I told her now, I'd never know if she could love me without it. "It means I see you clearly," I said instead, "and I'm starting to wonder if you see me at all." Vivian's eyes filled with tears, real ones. She looked young suddenly, scared. "I do see you," she whispered. I just, "I need you to be patient with me, please." "How long?" "Until after the gala. Just get me through the gala. Then things will be different. I promise." I wanted to believe her. God, I wanted to believe her so badly. But promises made out of fear aren't really promises. They're just delays. "Okay," I said quietly. She reached for my hand in the dark, squeezed it once. Then she turned away and picked up her phone again. I lay back down and stared at the ceiling. 10 more days. I could last 10 more days. And then I'd know the truth. The next morning, I was outside fixing a loose stone in the garden path when Graham's car pulled up. Expensive. Silver. The kind of car that announced you had money before you even stepped out. He parked in front of the house like he owned it. I kept working. Didn't look up. Graham's shoes appeared in my peripheral vision. Shiny leather. Probably cost more than my whole outfit. "Morning, Malik," he said. "Morning. What are you working on?" "Path stone came loose. Trip hazard." "Ah, always something to fix, right?" I looked up at him. He was smiling, but it wasn't friendly. It was the kind of smile a cat gives a mouse. "Can I help you with something, Graham?" "Just came by to see Vivian. Early meeting. She's inside." "I know." He crouched down next to me, close enough that I could smell his cologne. Expensive. Strong. "Actually, I wanted to talk to you." I set down the tool I was holding. About what? About Vivian. He picked up a small stone and turned it over in his hand. She's under a lot of pressure right now. The gala, the foundation, her mother's expectations. I know. Do you? He looked at me directly. Because from where I'm standing, it seems like you're adding to that pressure. My jaw tightened. How do you figure that? Well, let's be honest. You and Vivian come from different worlds. That's not a judgment. It's just a fact. He tossed the stone aside. And at events like the gala, those differences become very visible, very uncomfortable. For who? For everyone. He stood up, brushing dirt from his hands. Look, I like you, Malik. I do. You seem like a good guy, but maybe you're not the right fit for Vivian's life. Not long term. That's not your call to make. No, but it's hers. And I think deep down, she knows it too. He started walking toward the house, then stopped and turned back. She'd be happier with someone who understands her world, someone who can stand beside her instead of behind her. Someone like you? Graham smiled. I didn't say that, but if you love her, maybe you should think about what's actually best for her, instead of what's best for you. He walked into the house without waiting for a response. I sat there on the ground, my hands dirty, my chest burning. The disrespect was getting bolder, more direct, and still, Vivian said nothing. I stood up and walked to the garage, pulled out my phone, hit record. Day 4, I said. Graham told me I don't fit her world. He said she'd be happier without me, and the worst part is, I think she agrees with him. I stopped recording, deleted it, then recorded again. Day 4. I'm starting to understand this isn't about patience. It's about whether she'll ever choose me over her image, and I don't think she will. I saved that one. Mrs. Dotty found me later that afternoon in the kitchen. I was making a sandwich, trying to act normal, even though nothing felt normal anymore. You look tired, honey, she said. I'm fine. That's what people say when they're not fine. She sat down at the small table near the window. You want to talk about it? Not much to talk about. I saw Graham this morning. I looked up. Yeah? He had that look, the one he gets when he's stirring up trouble. She folded her hands on the table. He said something to you, didn't he? Nothing I didn't already know. What did he say? I set down the knife I was holding. He said I don't fit Vivian's world, that she'd be happier with someone else. Mrs. Dottie's face hardened. That man has no right. He's not wrong, though. I leaned against the counter. I don't fit. I never have. I was just hoping love would be enough to make up for it. Love should be enough. Should be, isn't always. She was quiet for a moment. Then she said, You know what I think? What? I think you're the best thing that ever happened to that girl, and I think she knows it. She's just too scared to admit it. Scared of what? Scared of choosing something real over something safe. Mrs. Dotty stood up and walked over to me. She put her hand on my arm. But that's her choice to make, Malik, not yours. You can't love someone into being brave. Her words hit me hard. So, what do I do? I asked. You decide what you're willing to accept, and then you hold that line. She squeezed my arm. Don't let anyone make you smaller than you are. Not even her. I nodded. My throat was tight. Thank you, Mrs. Dotty. Any time, honey. She left me alone in the kitchen. I finished making the sandwich, but I didn't eat it. I just stood there looking out the window at the beautiful grounds, the perfect gardens, the expensive everything. And I realized something. This house was a cage covered in gold, and I'd been living in it for 2 years, pretending the bars weren't there. That evening, Vivian came home exhausted. I was in the living room reading when she walked in and collapsed on the couch next to me. For a second, she just sat there, silent, her eyes closed. Then, without warning, she leaned her head toward my shoulder, not quite touching, but close, like she wanted to but couldn't quite let herself. Long day? I asked quietly. The longest. You want to talk about it? Not really. She opened her eyes, looked at me. Can we just sit here? No talking, no planning, just quiet. Yeah, we can do that. So we sat there in the dim light of the living room, her head almost on my shoulder, my hand almost reaching for hers, almost. For 10 minutes, we stayed like that, breathing, existing in the same space without performing. It felt like the first real moment we'd had in months. Then, her phone buzzed. She sat up immediately, grabbed it, read the message. Her whole body tensed. I have to make a call, she said. Now. It's about the gala. It can't wait. She stood up and walked to the other room. I heard her voice change, become bright and professional. The moment was over. I sat there alone on the couch and I finally let myself feel the weight of it all. The loneliness, the exhaustion, the slow breaking of my heart. I thought about the gala. 10 days away now. 9, actually. Vivian said things would change after the gala. But I didn't believe her anymore because people don't change after the big event. They just find a new excuse to stay the same. I pulled out my phone and opened the voice memo app. Day 4, I said quietly. She almost chose me tonight, almost. But then the world called and she answered. Like she always does. I stopped recording. And I started counting down the days until I'd know for sure if my marriage was real or just another thing she was managing. The suit arrived 3 days before the gala. A delivery truck pulled up to the house while I was trimming hedges in the front garden. The driver handed me a large garment bag with Vivian's name on the card. Sign here, he said, not looking at me. I signed. He left. I carried the bag inside and hung it in the closet. Didn't open it, didn't look at it, just left it there like evidence of something I didn't want to think about. Vivian came home that evening and went straight to the bedroom. I heard the closet door open, heard the rustle of the bag. Malik, she called. I walked to the doorway. She was holding up the suit. Black, expensive, perfect. What do you think? She asked. It's nice. Try it on. Now? Please. I took the suit from her and went to the bathroom to change. The fabric felt heavy, foreign, like I was putting on someone else's skin. When I looked in the mirror, I barely recognized myself. I looked rich, polished, like the kind of man who belonged at a gala. But I didn't feel like myself. I walked back to the bedroom. Vivian's face lit up when she saw me. Perfect, she said. She walked around me, adjusting the shoulders, smoothing the lapels. This is exactly right. You look you look like you belong. Belong where? With me, at the gala, with everyone else. I looked at her. I'm your husband, Vivian. I already belong with you. Her smile faltered, just slightly. You know what I mean. Do I? She stepped back, crossing her arms. Why do you do this? Do what? Turn everything into a fight. I'm not fighting. I'm just saying I shouldn't need a special suit to belong with my own wife. It's not about the suit, Malik. It's about showing respect for the occasion. Or hiding who I really am. Vivian's jaw tightened. Take it off. I don't want to argue about this. I went back to the bathroom and changed, hung the suit carefully on the hanger, stared at it for a long moment. It looked like a costume for a play I didn't want to be in. When I came out, Vivian was sitting on the bed with her phone. She didn't look up. The car will pick you up at 7:30, she said. Side entrance of the venue. Leon will meet you there. Leon, head of security. He'll make sure you get in without any confusion. Confusion? Yes. She still wasn't looking at me. I'll already be inside by then. I have to arrive early for photos and greeting donors. So, we're not arriving together. We talked about this. No, you told me. I didn't agree. She finally looked up. Her eyes were tired. Malik, Please, I need you to work with me on this, just this once, just for one night. And then what? Then things will be different, I promise. I'd heard that promise before. It was starting to sound like a lie she told herself more than me. Okay, I said quietly. She smiled, relieved. Thank you. She went back to her phone. I walked out of the room and down the stairs. Found myself in the garage again, sitting in my truck, surrounded by dust and silence. I pulled out my phone. Day 7, I recorded. She bought me a costume, told me when to arrive and where to stand. I'm not a husband anymore. I'm a prop, and she doesn't even see it. I stopped recording, sat there in the dark, and I realized something. The gala wasn't going to change anything. It was just going to prove what I already knew. 2 nights before the gala, a storm rolled in. Thunder shook the windows. Rain came down in sheets. The power flickered once, twice, then went out completely. The house went dark. I was in the kitchen when it happened. I heard Vivian call out from upstairs. Malik? Her voice sounded small, almost afraid. I'm here, I called back. I grabbed a flashlight from the utility drawer and found the breaker panel in the basement. Old house, old wiring, but I knew it well. I'd studied every inch of this place over the past 2 years. Fixed things nobody knew were broken. I flipped the breakers, reset the system, checked the backup generator. 10 minutes later, the lights came back on. When I came back upstairs, Vivian was standing in the hallway. She'd changed into comfortable clothes. No makeup, hair pulled back. She looked younger, softer. You fixed it, she said. Yeah. How did you know what to do? I've done it before. She looked at me like she was seeing something she'd forgotten. You always know how to fix things. Most things. Thunder rumbled outside. The lights flickered again, but held. Vivian walked closer. I hate storms, she said quietly. I know. When I was little, the power would go out and Mother would just light candles and keep working, like nothing was wrong, like being scared was weakness. She wrapped her arms around herself. I used to hide in my closet until it was over. I'd never heard this story before. In 2 years of marriage, she'd never told me. You don't have to hide anymore, I said. Don't I? She looked at me, really looked at me. Sometimes I feel like I'm still hiding. From everyone, even from you. Why? Because if I let you see who I really am, you might not love me anymore. The honesty in her voice broke something open in my chest. Vivian, I said, I already see who you are, and I still love you. Her eyes filled with tears. Do you? Yes. Even when I'm weak, even when I choose them over you, even then. But it's killing me. She stepped closer, put her hand on my face. Her fingers were cold. I'm so tired, Malik, she whispered. I'm tired of pretending, tired of performing, tired of being afraid. Then stop. I don't know how. The rain pounded against the windows. The house felt small around us, intimate. Start by choosing me, I said. Just once, in front of everyone, choose your husband over your image. She closed her eyes. A tear slid down her cheek. At the gala? She asked. Yes. What if I lose everything? What if you don't? She opened her eyes, looked at me like she was memorizing my face, and then she kissed me. Soft, tender, real, not for show, not for anyone else, just for us. Her lips were warm, her hands gentle on my face. She kissed me like I mattered, like I was worth choosing. When she pulled back, she kept her forehead pressed against mine. I'll try, she whispered. At the gala, I'll try to be brave. That's all I'm asking. We stood there in the dim hallway, the storm raging outside, and for a moment, I let myself hope. Maybe she could do it. Maybe she could choose love over fear. Maybe I was wrong about everything. The next morning, the storm was gone. Sunlight filled the house. Everything looked clean and bright. But Vivian was different. She came down to breakfast in full armor, hair perfect, makeup perfect, phone already in her hand. The woman from last night was gone. Good morning, I said. Morning. She poured coffee without looking at me. I have meetings all day. Final prep for tomorrow night. Okay. You remember what time to be there? 7:30, side entrance. Good. She took a sip of coffee. And you'll wear the suit? Yes. Thank you. She started to leave. I stopped her. Vivian, she turned. What? Last night. What you said about trying to be brave. Her face went blank, like a wall coming down. I was emotional, she said. The storm, the dark. I wasn't thinking clearly. You were thinking more clearly than you have in months. Malik, please, not today. I have too much to handle. I'm your husband. You shouldn't have to handle me. That's not what I meant. She checked her phone. I have to go. We'll talk after the gala. You said things would change after the gala. They will. No, they won't. The words came out harder than I meant them to. They won't because you don't want them to. You want me quiet and small and invisible so your life stays easy. That's not fair, isn't it? When was the last time you defended me? When was the last time you called me your husband in front of your friends? I defend you all the time, in private, where it doesn't cost you anything. Vivian's eyes flashed. You have no idea what it costs me. The judgment, the whispers, the constant questions about my choices. So, I'm a bad choice now? I didn't say that. You didn't have to. She grabbed her purse. Her hands were shaking. I can't do this right now. I have a meeting in 20 minutes. With Graham? She froze. What? You're meeting Graham, aren't you? He's helping with the final preparations. I bet he is. Don't. Her voice went ice cold. Don't make this about him. I'm not. I'm making it about you. About the fact that you trust him more than you trust me. He understands my world, and I don't. You don't want to. She turned to face me fully. You want me to burn it all down, my relationships, my reputation, everything I've built, just to prove I love you. I want you to introduce me as your husband. That's not burning anything down. That's basic respect. In your world, maybe. In mine, it's complicated. Then maybe your world is the problem. The words hung between us like a chasm. Vivian's face went hard. I have to go. She walked out without looking back. I heard her car start, heard the tires on the gravel, heard the silence that followed. And I knew. Last night was a moment, a crack in her armor. But she'd sealed it up again, put the walls back, chosen safety over truth. I pulled out my phone. Didn't even bother with the voice memo. I just texted Mrs. Dottie. Can we talk today? She responded immediately. I'll be there at noon. Mrs. Dottie brought lunch, sandwiches, and lemonade. We sat in the kitchen like we had 100 times before. But this time felt different. She looked at me with worried eyes. You sounded upset in your text. I'm done, Mrs. Dottie. Done with what? Pretending this marriage is something it's not. She set down her sandwich. Tell me what happened. So I did. I told her everything. The brunch, Graham's comments, the suit, the side entrance, the kiss during the storm, and how Vivian took it all back the next morning. Mrs. Dottie listened without interrupting. When I finished, she was quiet for a long time. What are you going to do? She asked finally. I'm going to the gala tomorrow night. And then? And then I'm going to see if she chooses me, if she introduces me as her husband, if she stands next to me instead of hiding me. And if she doesn't, I took a breath. Then I'm leaving. Mrs. Dottie's eyes filled with tears. Oh, Malik, I can't keep doing this. I can't keep being small so she can feel big. I know, honey. I know. She reached across the table and took my hand. You deserve better than this. I deserve what I accepted. No, you deserve what you hoped for. That's different. She squeezed my hand, and if she can't give you that, then you're right to walk away. It's going to hurt. Love always hurts when it ends, but staying in something that's killing you hurts worse. I nodded. My throat was tight. Will you tell her? Mrs. Dotty asked. About who you really are? After I see what she does tomorrow night, if she fails the test, she'll know. I'll make sure she knows what she threw away. And if she passes? I hadn't thought that far. Hadn't let myself hope she would. Then maybe there's something to save, I said quietly. Mrs. Dotty stood up and came around the table. She pulled me into a hug, held me tight like a mother holds a child. I'm proud of you, she said, for knowing your worth, for drawing a line. That takes courage. I held on to her, let myself feel safe, for just a moment. Thank you, I whispered. When she left, I sat alone in the kitchen and looked at the clock. 24 hours until the gala. 24 hours until I'd know if my marriage was real or just another beautiful lie. That night, Vivian came home late. I was already in bed reading. She came into the room quietly and started getting ready for sleep. We moved around each other like strangers. Polite, careful, distant. She climbed into bed and turned off her light. In the darkness, I heard her voice, soft, almost afraid. Malik? Yeah? Are we okay? I thought about lying, about saying yes to make it easier, but I was done lying. I don't know, I said. She was quiet for a long time. Then, I do love you. You know that, right? I know you think you do. What does that mean? It means love isn't just a feeling, Vivian. It's a choice, and you keep choosing everything else. She didn't answer, just turned away from me. I lay there staring at the ceiling, counting down the hours. Tomorrow night would tell me everything I needed to know. Tomorrow night, my wife would either stand beside me or she'd prove that I'd been standing alone all along. The day of the gala arrived bright and cold. I woke up early before Vivian and went downstairs to make coffee. The house was still quiet, peaceful, like it didn't know what was coming. I sat at the kitchen table and watched the sun come up through the window. Golden light spread across the expensive countertops, the marble floors, the perfect everything. This could be the last morning I woke up in this house. The thought didn't scare me as much as it should have. Vivian came down an hour later, already dressed and moving fast. She had her phone pressed to her ear, talking to someone about seating arrangements. She poured coffee without looking at me, still talking. No, Graham sits at table 3, not 4. Yes, I'm sure. Okay. Fine, I'll be there by 5. She hung up and finally looked at me. Big day, I said, the biggest. She checked her watch. I have hair and makeup at noon, then I need to be at the venue by 5 for final checks. You remember? 7:30, side entrance. Leon will meet me. Right? She grabbed a piece of toast, took one bite, then set it down. I'm too nervous to eat. It'll be fine. Will it? She looked at me with something like desperation in her eyes. What if something goes wrong? What if people judge me? What if... Vivian. I stood up and walked over to her. What are you really afraid of? She opened her mouth, closed it. Her eyes got shiny. I'm afraid of disappointing everyone, she said quietly. Everyone? Or your mother? She looked away. Same thing. It's not. You don't understand. Mother built this foundation. This is her legacy. If I mess it up, you won't mess it up. How do you know? Because you're good at this. You're smart and capable and you care about the work. I touched her arm gently. But you don't have to be perfect. You just have to be yourself. Myself isn't enough. The words landed hard between us. For who? I asked. She didn't answer, just grabbed her purse and headed for the door. I have to go, she said. I'll see you tonight. Vivian, she stopped but didn't turn around. Tonight, when you introduce me to people, I said carefully. What are you going to say? I don't know yet. I'll figure it out. Will you call me your husband? The silence stretched out like a wire pulled too tight. I'll see you tonight, Malik, she said. Then she left. I stood there in the empty kitchen, coffee getting cold in my hand, and I felt the last piece of hope crack inside my chest. She couldn't even promise to call me her husband. After 2 years of marriage, she couldn't even promise that. I spent the day preparing myself, not just putting on the suit, preparing my heart for what was coming. Mrs. Dotty stopped by around 3. She found me sitting in the garden, just staring at nothing. You holding up? She asked. Trying to. She sat down next to me on the bench. You look like you're going to a funeral, not a gala. Maybe I am. Oh, honey. She put her arm around my shoulders. You still have hope. I can see it. You're hoping she'll surprise you tonight. I'm a fool. No, you're a man who loves his wife. There's nothing foolish about that. She squeezed my shoulder. But loving someone doesn't mean accepting less than you deserve. I know. Do you? Because I've watched you shrink yourself for 2 years, making yourself smaller so she could feel bigger. That stops tonight one way or another. I nodded. My throat was tight. Whatever happens, Mrs. Dotty said, you're going to be okay. You hear me? You're going to be just fine. How do you know? Because you're stronger than you think, and you know your worth. That's half the battle right there. She stayed with me for another hour. We didn't talk much, just sat in the garden while the sun moved across the sky. When she left, she hugged me tight. I'll be praying for you tonight, she said. Thank you. And Malik, if you need anything after tonight, anything at all, you call me. Understand? I will. She left and I went inside to get ready. The suit fit perfectly. I looked at myself in the mirror and barely recognized the man staring back. Polished, expensive, like someone who belonged at a fancy gala. But inside, I felt hollow. I checked my watch. 7 o'clock. Time to go. I drove my truck to the venue, parked in the back lot where Vivian had instructed. The building was beautiful, all glass and lights. I could hear music inside, laughter, the sound of people having a good time. I walked to the side entrance. Leon was waiting there, big and solid in his security uniform. He looked uncomfortable when he saw me. Evening, Malik, he said. Leon, you're not on the main access list. I know. Vivian told me. He shifted his weight. I'm supposed to bring you in through here and keep you on the perimeter. Those were my instructions. From Vivian? Yes, sir. I took a breath, nodded. Let's go. Leon led me through a side hallway, plain white walls, service corridor, the opposite of the grand entrance where everyone else was arriving. We came out near the back of the main ballroom. The space was massive, crystal chandeliers, round tables with white cloths, flowers everywhere, hundreds of people in expensive clothes holding wine glasses, talking and laughing. I stood at the edge of it all and looked for Vivian. Found her near the center. She was wearing a deep blue gown that made her look like royalty. Her hair was perfect, her smile bright. She was talking to a group of older men in tuxedos, her hand touching one man's arm as she laughed at something he said. She looked happy, confident, in her element. Graham appeared beside her, said something in her ear. She nodded. They moved together through the crowd like they'd been doing this dance for years. I watched my wife work the room, and I realized I was watching a stranger. An hour passed. I stayed on the perimeter like Leon had instructed. Vivian moved through the crowd, greeting people, smiling, performing. She never once looked in my direction. A few people mistook me for staff. One woman asked me to fetch her a drink. I politely told her I couldn't help. She looked annoyed and walked away. I saw Mrs. Dottie's words in my head. "You're stronger than you think." I needed to remember that. Finally, around 8:30, Vivian came near where I was standing. She was with a small group of women. They were talking about the foundation, about donations, about who was wearing what. She saw me. Our eyes met across 10 feet of space. I saw the decision happen on her face, the quick calculation, the choice. She turned back to her conversation like she hadn't seen me at all. My heart cracked. Not broke, just cracked a little more. I stayed there for another 30 minutes, watching, waiting, hoping she'd come over, hoping she'd introduce me, hoping she'd choose me. She didn't. Then Eleanor arrived. Vivian's mother swept into the space like a queen, drawing attention just by existing. She found Vivian immediately, kissed her cheek, whispered something. Vivian's whole body went tense. Eleanor's eyes scanned the room. Found me. Her face hardened. She said something to Vivian. Vivian shook her head. Eleanor said something else, sharper. Vivian looked at the ground. Then Eleanor walked over to where Graham was standing with some donors. She pulled him aside, pointed subtly toward me. Graham nodded. My stomach dropped. A minute later, Leon appeared beside me. His face was tight, apologetic. "Malik," he said quietly, "I need you to come with me." "Why?" "Orders." "From who?" He hesitated. "Mrs. Grant." "Vivian, my wife." "She wants me removed?" asked. Leon couldn't look at me. "She said you can't be on the main floor. Guest complaint." It was a lie. We both knew it, but Leon had a job to do. "Okay," I said quietly. We walked through the crowd. People turned to look. I saw cameras flash. Someone whispered. Vivian was across the room talking to a city council member. She glanced over, saw me being escorted out, and she turned her face away. That's when it happened. The string that had been holding my heart together finally snapped. Clean. Complete. I didn't make a scene, didn't yell or fight or cause trouble. I just walked out with Leon, my head up, my heart breaking. Love became history in that moment. Everything I'd hoped for, everything I'd believed in, gone. I sat in my truck in the parking lot for a long time. The music from the gala was muffled. The lights made the building look like a palace. Inside, my wife was pretending I didn't exist. Outside, I was deciding what came next. I pulled out my phone, looked at all the voice memos I'd recorded over the past 2 weeks. Evidence, receipts, the slow death of a marriage documented in my own voice. I didn't need them anymore. I knew the truth. I started the truck and drove home. The house was dark when I got there. Quiet. I walked through the rooms, looking at everything like I was seeing it for the first time. This wasn't my home. It never had been. It was Vivian's stage, and I was just a prop she was embarrassed to have on set. I went upstairs and packed a bag. Not everything, just enough. Clothes, toiletries, the things that mattered. Then, I went to the kitchen and found a piece of paper. Wrote one sentence. "I won't be loved in secret." I left it on the counter where she'd see it when she got home. Then I sat down in the living room and waited. I didn't have to wait long. Just before midnight, I heard her car. Heard the front door open. Heard her heels on the marble floor. "Malik?" Her voice was small, uncertain. "In here." She came into the living room, still in her gown. Makeup smudged. She saw my bag by my feet and her face went white. "What are you doing?" she asked. "Leaving." "What? No, we need to talk. We're done talking, Vivian." She rushed forward, knelt in front of me. "Please, let me explain. Mother was pushing and there were donors watching and I panicked. You had me removed. I didn't want to. Graham suggested it and Mother agreed and I just... You agreed." I looked at her. "You chose them over me. Again." "I was scared." "Of what? Of people knowing I'm your husband?" Her silence was the answer. I can't do this anymore, I said quietly. I can't keep being the man you're ashamed of. I'm not ashamed. Yes, you are. I stood up. She stayed kneeling, looking up at me with tears streaming down her face. You've been ashamed since the day we got married. Maybe before. You thought you could manage it, control it, make it work without actually changing anything. That's not true, isn't it? When was the last time you called me your husband in public? When was the last time you defended me? She couldn't answer. You wanted me simple and quiet and invisible, I said, and I gave you that because I loved you. But love isn't supposed to feel like hiding. I do love you. You love the idea of me, the version that doesn't complicate your life. She grabbed my hand. Please don't go. Please, I'll do better. I'll change. Was I ever your husband in public? I asked. Or only in private? The question hung in the air. Vivian opened her mouth, closed it. The tears kept falling, but she had no answer, because we both knew the truth. I pulled my hand away gently, picked up my bag. Wait, she said desperately. What do you want? Tell me what you want, and I'll do it. I looked at her, my wife, still beautiful, still scared. Truth, I said. I want the truth. She took a shaky breath. And finally, she said it. I was ashamed. Her voice broke. I was ashamed, and I hate that I was. I hate myself for it. But you're right. I chose my image over you, every time, because I was too afraid to lose everything else. And now you've lost me instead. Her face crumpled. Malik, please. I wanted to stay angry, wanted to feel righteous, but all I felt was tired. I hope you learn what love costs, I said quietly. Then I walked to the door. She followed barefoot, her gown trailing behind her, crying so hard she could barely breathe. Don't leave, she begged. Please don't leave. I turned back one last time. You chose this, I said. You chose it every day for 2 years. This is just the consequence finally catching up. I opened the door and walked out into the cold night air. Behind me, I heard her crying, heard her call my name. But I didn't stop, because sometimes love isn't enough. Sometimes you have to love yourself more than you love the person breaking your heart. I got in my truck and drove away, and I didn't look back. The next morning, I woke up in a hotel room. Clean, quiet, impersonal. I made coffee with the little machine on the desk, watched the sun come up through the window. My phone buzzed. Text from Vivian. Please come home. We need to talk. Then another. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Then another. Please. I turned my phone off. I wasn't ready for that conversation yet, but I knew it was coming, because I had one more thing to tell her. The truth she never knew. The truth that would change everything. I finished my coffee, got dressed, and drove to the one place I knew I'd find clarity. Mrs. Dottie's house. She opened the door in her bathrobe, took one look at my face, and pulled me inside. Oh, honey, she said, come here. I broke down, let her hold me while I cried, let out 2 years of pain and disappointment and heartbreak. When I finally stopped, she made me breakfast, eggs and toast. We sat at her small kitchen table and I told her everything that happened at the gala. I'm proud of you, she said when I finished, for leaving, for knowing your worth. It doesn't feel like something to be proud of. That's because your heart is still breaking, but give it time. You'll see you did the right thing. I nodded, picked at my eggs. What happens now? She asked. I tell her the truth about who I really am, about the ownership structure, about everything. When? Soon. I just need a few days to get my head straight. Mrs. Dottie reached across the table and squeezed my hand. Whatever you need, I'm here. Thank you. I stayed with her most of the day. We didn't talk much, just existed in comfortable silence. And slowly, hour by hour, I started to feel like I could breathe again. 3 days later, I went back to the house. Early morning, I knew Vivian would be there. My truck felt strange pulling up the long driveway, like I was visiting a place from my past instead of coming home. I used my key, walked in. The house was quiet. I found Vivian in the living room, sitting on the couch in pajamas. She looked terrible, hair unwashed, face pale, eyes red like she'd been crying for days. She stood up when she saw me. Malik, she breathed. We need to talk, I said. Yes, please. I've been trying to call. I know. I sat down in the chair across from her, calm, controlled. I turned my phone off. I needed space. I understand. She sat back down, nervous. I'm glad you're here. I've been thinking and I want to. Vivian, stop. I looked at her. Before you say anything, I need to tell you something. Something I should have told you a long time ago. Her face went confused. What? I took a breath. I'm the owner, I said. What? The ownership structure, the private trust, the controlling interest in your family's holdings. I kept my voice even. It's mine. It's been mine for 2 years, since before we got married. She stared at me, blinked. I don't understand. My mentor set it up before he died. Left me everything. I own what your mother thinks she controls. The foundation, the properties, all of it. Her face went from confused to shocked to horrified. That's not possible. It is, and it's true. Why didn't you tell me? Because I wanted you to love me for me, not for what I had. She stood up suddenly, started pacing. This is. You've been lying to me for 2 years? I haven't lied. I just didn't correct your assumptions. That's the same thing, is it? Because you assumed I was less than you. You assumed I didn't belong in your world. You assumed I was something to be ashamed of. I stood up too. I didn't create those assumptions, Vivian. You did. This isn't fair. You're right. It's not. None of this is fair. I stepped closer. I gave you 2 years to love me without the money, without the power, just me, and you couldn't do it because I didn't know exactly. You didn't know. And that's why you treated me like the help. That's why you hid me. That's why you chose your mother and Graham and everyone else over me. I kept my voice calm but firm. I didn't trick you into cruelty, Vivian. I just removed your excuse. She collapsed back onto the couch, put her face in her hands. So what now? She asked. You take everything? You destroy us? No, I don't destroy anything. But things change. I sat back down. Access will change immediately. Household decisions revert to me. Invitations stop going through Eleanor. The accounts you've been using for image management get paused. Boundaries get set. She looked up at me. You're punishing me. I'm protecting myself. There's a difference. Please don't do this. Fresh tears started falling. I know I messed up. I know I hurt you, but we can fix this. I can change. I can. Can you? I asked quietly. Because every promise you've made so far has been broken. Every time you had a choice, you chose wrong. I was scared. I know. But I can't be married to your fear anymore. I can't keep begging you to choose me. She was crying hard now. So that's it? You're just done? I looked at her. Really looked at her. Saw the woman I fell in love with buried under all the armor and fear and shame. I was begging you, I said softly, silently, for 2 years. Every time you hid me, every time you looked away, I was begging you to choose me. I'm choosing you now. Because you know what I have, not because of who I am. The truth of it hit her hard. I saw it in her face. That's not. I do love you. Maybe you do, but not enough. Not yet. I stood up. I hope someday you learn what love costs. Real love. The kind that chooses someone even when it's hard, even when it's scary. I walked to the door. Where are you going? She asked desperately. Somewhere quiet. Somewhere I can be myself without apologizing for it. Will you come back? I looked back at her one last time. I don't know, I said honestly. Then I left. Weeks later, I found a small apartment across town. Clean, simple, mine. I made coffee in silence every morning. No performance, no fear, just peace. I worked with my hands again, but on my terms. Fixed things because I wanted to, not because I was hiding. Mrs. Dottie came by for lunch once a week. We'd sit on my little balcony and talk about everything and nothing. She never asked if I was going back to Vivian. She knew I'd figure it out when I was ready. One Saturday, I drove past the old estate. Didn't plan to, just found myself on that road. The gates were closed, the driveway empty except for Vivian's car. The house looked smaller somehow, less imposing. I didn't stop, just drove past slow, remembering the man I used to be when I lived there. Small, hidden, hoping to be seen. I wasn't that man anymore. I kept driving. Found myself heading to the coffee shop where Vivian and I first really talked. Back when she thought I was just a guy who set up chairs. Back when we were simple. I ordered coffee and sat by the window. My phone buzzed. Text from Vivian. She'd been texting every few days. Always the same message. I'm sorry. Please talk to me. I didn't reply. But I didn't delete it either. I wasn't angry anymore. Just aware. Aware that some people have to lose everything before they learn what matters. Aware that I deserved better than I'd accepted. Aware that walking away was the bravest thing I'd ever done. I finished my coffee and walked outside. The day was cold, but bright, clean. I thought about Vivian standing at the window of the estate, probably looking out at the driveway, probably hoping to see my truck pull up. Some mornings she might think she sees it, a dark vehicle turning past, pausing for just a second. Maybe it's really me, driving by, remembering. Maybe it's just her imagination, her guilt, her regret. Either way, she sees it now. She sees what she threw away. She sees what she could have had if she'd just been brave enough to choose love over fear. I hope she learns from it. I hope she becomes the woman I believed she could be. But whether she does or not, I'm going to be okay. Because I finally chose myself. And that's the only choice that really mattered all along.